Welcome everyone to we do typically on the first night of the consortium, we try to do a farmer presentation, partly because for those of you who missed this morning, the Pasture Consortium moves around to partner up with different grazing or sustainable agriculture events all across our region. So we try to have a farmer presentation from a farmer who's relatively nearby, just to kind of give some flavor of the types of farms in the area. So Ben isn't exactly from Western Massachusetts, but he has an excellent story. And he was here with us and it worked out beautifully for him to share his story. So I'm going to take it away. Ben Nottermann of Snug Valley Farm.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jen. You did not tell me about a live stream. I would have charged more, I think. So yeah, we're Snug Valley Farm. We're in East Hardwick, which is in the very northeast corner of Vermont, about a half hour west of St. Johnsbury. We raise grass-fed, grass-finished beef, grass-fed lamb, as well as pastured in the summertime pork, and is obviously a non-GMO pork. So we've been kicking around the regenerative grass scene for a while. I think we were doing grass-fed before it was a thing. It was before it was cool, not because we were trying to be trendsetters, but grain was expensive. We used to buy wet calves from dairy farms, wet bull calves, raise them, wean them, and then make grass-fed beef out of them. And we did that for since the early 90s to 2018, 2019 were our last Holsteins, and now we've switched to all British breeds. So there won't likely be any Holsteins in my photos here, but it's either Hereford or Angus cross at this point, or Hereford Angus cross. And just kind of a brief overview. So we market both wholesale, retail, and carcass wholesale. So we sell to other labels, carcasses, both beef and pork, butcher shops, that kind of thing. And then we also wholesale cuts to restaurants, storefronts, natural food stores, co-ops. And we also do home delivery retail that we started in March of 2020, like a week after the shutdown, whenever everything went dark. We started doing home delivery, and we've been rolling with that since. And that's to Northern Vermont, primarily to Addison County or Chittenden County, Northern Addison County. So around Burlington, pretty much from Hardwick over to Burlington, and a bit north, bit south, down to Waitsfield, and up to St. Albans. And if there's at any point, feel free to raise your hand. I don't have a very strict, you need to follow my slides presentation. So here's some of our cattle out on grass. The ones on the right that was in probably mid-June. I think probably right before that great wetness that hit most of us in Northern Vermont for all of the second half of June and the rest of the summer, which may or may not remember and have PTSD from. It was definitely a challenging summer. The group on the right is some of our finishing cattle on the home place. So we manage, this past year, I think we had 160 out on grass in 4 different groups that we move daily or every other day, depending on where we were in the grazing season. Yeah, so we're pretty proactive on our moving cattle daily. Sheep are moved every 2 to 3 days, and then pigs are moved. They're kind of on a static paddock because we're using them to renovate old pasture ground that we then till and follow with a reseed, and then put that back to grass production for our cattle and sheep. So with that, since we're finishing cattle year round, I don't know if I said that before, we're finishing cattle year round. So with that comes the need for hay and winter facilities to keep beef dry, happy, and hopefully gaining through the wintertime. We do push our grazing season into the snowy time. So we'll graze as late as we have grass before we pull them in. The last 3 years, 2 years ago, 21, we grazed 222 days. And then it was 210 last year in 22. And this year, I think we were only 201. But so we're really stretching our grazing season as long as we can. And as long as there's good forage and they're gaining on it, I'll keep them out. Water kind of seems to be the limiting factor, keeping them in water, being temperatures dropping, and we have surface water piped everywhere. So it becomes a challenge. That's kind of our limiting factor. Grazing, and tracking grazing. Troy's not in here right now, and Brian's not in here right now. Are they? No. But they really, really push on the grazing chart. And it took a number of years of Troy beating me over the head with a stick for me to adopt a grazing chart that wasn't just in my head. So we fully embraced it. And we went with this large format grazing chart from ranch management consultants out in Wyoming. It's really great for employees to track grazing. It really gives a great visual, and it's really easy when you screw up because you just take a wet rag and, fix your mess up and move on. So keeping track of our grazing has been a crucial tool for us to improve year to year, even though over the last 3 years, we've had a downward trend in number of days we've grazed, but that's due to weather and increased animal numbers as we go. What's probably the one thing beef producers don't spend money on is a good working facility. It took us a lot of years of being really dumb on how we did things before I pulled the trigger and built a working facility this past September that's dedicated. Tell you what, that's probably been our biggest cost savings as far as labor goes in the last 3 months. We can work one person, and my employee Lauren and I, we can work 70 fats in like 45 minutes to 55 minutes, cross the scale, ear tags, sort. It's like easy. It's never been easy before. So that was pretty game changing for us. It's the little things. And every time we push cattle through, like, remember how we used to do it and how it used to be really hard and now it's not. And yeah, so spending money on the peripheral working facilities is it's expensive to be cheap, right? If you don't, we had the air equipped chute, but we didn't have the facility to feed it. So it was like this monumental hurdle that we had to jump every time we needed to work cattle or sort, which we do frequently, like twice a month, 70, 80 fats through twice a month, plus whatever's coming in. Just trying to save anybody the hard way of learning, because it's not worth it. Just spend it. Like, I think I spent $4,000 on the facility and it saved us easily that. Well, maybe not quite yet, but soon, in labor and time and frustration. So speaking of Lauren, there's my number one employee. She's been with us for 2.5 years and is jack of all trades and master of all, which I am not. So finding that really key, like that keystone employees is crucial for us. We do everything from order fulfillment to moving cattle to fixing pig fence to fixing waters to moving sheep every day. And so you got to finding that employee that's like will fit in all those roles is super hard. And we found it with Lauren, and she's probably one of the reasons we're successful at this point is having those, holding down all the corners that I don't like. And I get distracted very easily. So she's very busy. We also have a flock of Coopworth sheep, which I might've mentioned or alluded to. We have like 45, 50 ewes. So we'll see what that brings this next round. Yeah. So pigs on pasture, also a big challenge point because they like to be a challenge all the time. And if anybody's got better pasture systems than I do, I want to hear about them because I'm really tired of mine. So pretty much we've been using electro net fencing and a water point and a shelter. And the fence becomes a challenge always, because they want to not be where you want them to be all the time. Can I just say this question?
Yes.
All right. So the question was, how do I like that water? The water's great, except when it runs out and then they roll it around and then you lose the little rubber pucks that are like $35 each. So I figured out we put a float in through the top with just black plastic pipe on a 90. I don't remember the name of the float, but it stays full. And that way it's never light enough for them to roll it around. And that seems to work.
Is it too late?
No.
The vote is passed. Okay.
So
Follow-up question. Here we go.
Forgot. Oh, how do you feed water to it? Is that float, is it charged all the time?
Yeah, so the float goes through let me get back to that, goes through the lid. There's you can run a 3/4 inch black pipe through the top, a hose clamp top and bottom, so it stays in the position, and then just a garden hose on a creative bridging system so they can't grab it.
Okay, so that's my question. So you have something that goes up in the air
Yeah, yeah.
and it's just not in that photo?
This photo was taken before I figured that system out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And also putting it on a wood platform of some kind. I just used some old 2x6s that were from a fence just so they don't make a wallow where the water is and then the water tips over. That's also a fun experience. When there's a 275 gallons of water that's disappeared and so have your plugs to the water troughs. So we're also finishing pork year round. So this past year we upgraded our pig barn. We run hoop style barns. So I built this past year. So there's pigs coming off of pasture. Sheep panels, by the way, with rebar work great for loading pigs. If anybody needs those pointers. Yeah, so we can house somewhere around 200 pigs at a time in our winter barn, which is also our finishing barn. So we pull off a pasture at about 5 months and start pulling the high flyers out of the group. Just so you don't end up with that 1 or 2 400-pounder when you send the rest of the group to go. And also loading off a pasture weekly would be an absolute management nightmare, which I have no desire to deal with. Let's see. So here's some more grazing. Side by side is probably one of our crucial tools. We call it the FV Real Deal, which is fencing vehicle real deal. I think I lifted it from a tuna fishing boat possibly, but so reels in the side by side are pretty much our game changing tool for summertime grazing, because we have pastures everywhere. We're scattered over, I don't even know how many ownerships, but 6 major locations where we have either sheep, beef, or cattle. Wintertime feed, that's always the most costly. We built a new feed line and winter chip yard for our cattle 2018, 2019, somewhere in that realm. And we were looking at it as a nutrient funnel, like you feed hay in a ring or you feed hay in a round bale feeder out on dirt, and all your nutrients that you've made come to one spot and you can never get that stuff back out on pasture without picking up rocks or breaking machines or whatever. So we took the plunge, and that's been pretty game changing, capturing those nutrients, capturing that manure and getting it back out to where it came. Ideally, yes, we'd graze year round, but that's fairly challenging in Northern Vermont. We're not in the Dakotas where it's a dry snow or dry cold. So deep bedded pack barn. We have now 2 barns on this one chip yard, 52 by 104 and a 40 by 80. And we can house about 120 fat cattle that we pull from weekly. And that seems to work pretty well. We contract out our backgrounding for feeder calves to a former dairy farm that has feed and a barn. So we don't have to manage all of our cattle at one time. All right, now for the more fun stuff in my boring background, which was what we got to play with this past summer, were GPS no fence collars. So the virtual fence. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, maybe a little bit. So we partnered with the Agritech Institute for Small Farms, which is founded by Dan Smith and thank you, Roger Albee. So it's a 2-year pilot study. It's funded by the Vermont Legislature, the VHCB board, and the Lintillac Foundation. So it's putting, actually, I have one. It's putting collars on cattle and hopefully replacing polyline. Hopefully replacing polyline with the modern day cowbell that has electroshock therapy. So this is something that we were approached by Kimberly Hagan and Dan Smith, who are kind of the point leaders of this study. Is this something we'd want to try? And I'm up for some crazy stuff, so why not, right? So we installed these collars on 63 head of cattle. There were 6 to 7 weights. in May. And we weren't really sure how it was going to work. Well, it did work. Like the proof of concept is certainly there. We used it, we strip graze pretty much everything. So we have a front fence, back fence, and just leapfrog. So we use the virtual fence, the no fence collars as our virtual front line and back line for daily paddock shifts. They were still within a 3-strand high tensile fence, and there was a single strand high tensile divider on the 50-acre property that they were on, so that we could strip either side. So we were really just using it as a front and a back, and they were contained by high tensile, because I really wouldn't trust this solely by a road. I think you could probably get away with these with a soft wire, you know, like a 14 gauge soft wire electric single strand electric fence. In conjunction with those, you don't need a high tensile at that point. So we turned them out in May. I'm not sure when this photo was taken. This looks like second rotation, possibly. They adapted to them fairly quickly. It was like a 3-day training process of them learning. So there's an auditory alarm when they get close to the virtual boundary that you've set. And then as they get closer, it gets louder. And then there's a electrical pulse that travels to them through the chains. I realized the collar I grabbed didn't have the rubber top band. So there's the rubber band that goes over the top of the neck that's wide, it's comfortable. And there's 2 little locking points for the chain, so it's adjustable. The pulse comes through the chains. And I also meant to find the video of me holding this and walking through the line, you know, like people do with dog collars. It's really not that bad. It's like the cheapest, lightest Tractor Supply charger you could buy. So it's not very potent. Never mind that one. There we go. Okay. So here's a quick little video. These cattle are grazing and walking around with their cowbells, or the modern day cowbell. They're not a hindrance to them. That doesn't slow their grazing down. Seems to, after the first few days where they're like little crazy running around bucking, they don't even care that they're there. I've seen cattle dunk these into a water tank with so the battery's on the bottom. And I was very concerned about, what if they lay down in a puddle? What if they dunk this in the water tank? I've seen these go fully submerged, come out, go in, come out, to no ill effects. So the battery is actually pretty impressive that it could deal with being wet. Let's see if I can get back to. Bear with me here.
Ben, if it doesn't work for you, Ben, here live, we can also post that link
Okay. I'm just
under
trying to
the
get
session,
back.
just so folks can see it.
I'm just trying to figure out where we are. There we go. Okay. Perfect. There we go. Sorry, there's a lot of tabs open here. So again, they're out on pasture, doing their deal. Here, that's the slide you were meant to see. So this is the other really interesting part with the app that's on your phone. You can see it gives you a heat map. So it shows you where they were, that they were there for long periods of time, where the collar was communicating with the cell tower. So it pings every 5 minutes. So where the more green, the more time they spent. So it's really interesting to go see, like, what drew their interest. Okay, was it the shade? Was it the water tub? Was it the mineral tub? But oh, it's out in the middle where there's nothing and it's 90 degrees. Why were they there? So it was really interesting to walk out there to see what was there, what were they eating, what drew their attention. And about 3/4 of the time, it was freaking bed straw. Like, I don't know what it was, but they would go to the bed straw, eat that first, and then go to the clover, then the orchard grass. There must have been something, it must have been sweet, or there was something in the bed straw that they were lacking.
Before it bloomed, the bed straw,
When does it bloom?
late June.
This both before and after.
Ha.
I should have known when it bloomed. So here's another heat map. Also not very clear. My apologies. This one I'm demonstrating on how to move so you have to come on Saturday, and hopefully I'll have this ironed out by then. So here's some screenshots from within the app. These little dots, which my pointer doesn't show up, but the little dots are each individual collar. So you can click on each collar and then find out if you wanted to associate a ear tag number with it. You could figure out activity level. It'll warn you if the animal hasn't moved in like 4 hours. So whether they're sleeping or they're down. We had ones that come to heat and it warned me like, this cow has not moved for 6 hours. I went, okay, I've either lost the collar off the cattle or something's really not good. And it was not good. In that really 90-degree heat in May, I lost one that was too dumb to go lay in the shade. And then not real sure what happened there, but it told me it wasn't moving, and it certainly wasn't. So here is an overlay of all the paddocks. So on the right, you can see all of the paddocks as we've gone over. So this might be, that is, I don't know what date it was. Can't tell from this, but so that might be 2 rotations of paddocks. There is a way now you can color code them so you can see like first rotation, second rotation, or hide one or the other, so it's not so cluttered. And we figured out how to move them efficiently, where you overlay the new paddock with the old paddock plus where you want them to go, because putting 2 adjoining paddocks next to each other tends to be a challenge point because they don't want to cross that buzz line into the new grass because the collars all update at different speeds. So like 5 might be able to go through, and then there's 55 standing there waiting, trying to figure out how come they can't go through. So there was a bunch of human learning curve on that as well. So here are some different variations on different paddocks on different properties. You can tailor them to however you need. The first paddock on your left was a much tighter rotation compared to, which was first rotation, to second rotation, which was much bigger for a 2-day period after, when we were having the crazy wet and everything was turning to mud if you looked at it. So just to give you the scope of like a daily paddock shift. And I guess that was about it. So we'll hopefully get those lined out for Saturday. Happy to take any questions.
All right, anybody have any questions?
How do you charge the collars?
So the collars have a solar panel on one side, and it's photovoltaic, so it doesn't need to be in direct sunlight. This company's out of Norway. And they have less sunlight than we do in the wintertime, and they run them all winter. They also have way more sunlight than we do all summer, but they work in the winter there, so they should work in the summer here. That's kind of my point. We did run into some trouble toward the end of the summer with battery life. It tanked, like they did a software update to these that they pushed through the cell tower mid-August. And then by the time we were doing a pasture walk with Jen in October sometime, maybe, they were like, I had to shut them off the day before because they were all dead. Like the batteries were dead. It wasn't letting them leave the paddock that they were in. So the challenge right now that they're working on, at no offense, is Europe still has 2G for data on their cell towers. We don't. Like the lowest we have is what, 4 now? And 4 and 5 are really messing with the battery life on these. So they're working on a fix. So originally they were going to be available in 2024 this year for sale, but it looks like it's going to be 25 for like full release. So I'm hoping that they can figure whatever they need to figure out so I can use them again this summer. Last pricing I saw, they were $300 or give or take a little bit per collar. And it was a $10 or $11 per year per collar subscription fee. But the back of the napkin math that I did was save me an hour worth of labor a day, either myself or an employee, at like $25-30. So in 2 years, I could have paid with that labor savings for 63 collars. And they have a life expectancy of 5 to 7 years, but a lot of guys are in the 7 to 9 year range with 1 battery replacement. So that seems pretty reasonable. I do like these better than some of the other, granted, I don't have any experience with them, but like Vents won't touch a herd under 500 head. Whereas these, they'll sell you 1, 2, or 100. So the other options, I want larger scale herds, whereas these will work with whatever you got.
Hey, just to know how you decided to use this new technology on your farm.
How did I decide?
Yeah, why do you decided to use it?
I was approached with the option or the opportunity to try them. And I was like, okay, I do a lot of crazy things. So I was like, why not? The worst it could do is fail. And I go back to polywire. So
Do you know if they're planning to make this for other animal species like sheep and goats?
they do have a small ruminant version that Dan and Kimberly were trying to get their hands on as part of this pilot study. They were supposed to get X number, but that with the cell issue and the battery life, they held off from giving them out for trial here. So the idea is that the small ruminant ones will be really good for ski areas, utility line maintenance for goats and hair sheep. Because I can't imagine stringing a net fence through some of that miserable terrain. And they do have, I think there is an option, they're working on an option to tie in technology for a livestock guardian dog to give them like a larger boundary around where the sheep or goats are so that you could move them accordingly. So, yeah.
That was my question. Livestock guard dogs are good for this.
Yes, they are using them in conjunction in Norway now. They turn their sheep out into the highlands for the entire summer. It's like they turn them out and then they catch them in the fall. And they have like real wolves there, not like the little things we have here or think we have here. And they seem to work with the predation pressure that they have in conjunction with livestock guardian dogs.
Trying to get this recorded. Sorry. I gotta go get dessert.
Do you think you could, instead of giving the whole herd having a collar, you could do selectively like leader kind of animals and decrease your need for everyone to have a collar?
That makes sense to me, but I don't know if it's the company's marketing that they say every animal needs to have a collar for this to work. And I could see that, like the property that we put them on, there's a bunch of town trails. There's like some mountain bike single track, like right on the other side of the 3-strand high tensile. And when we first learned, or when we in the first 2 or 3 weeks, they were following people with dogs or a mountain bike up the single track trail. And I think that urge would be hard to overcome if only a portion of them had the collars on. So that when they leave your paddock or wherever they're supposed to be, they get the buzz, the auditory buzz, and then they get the shock. And then once they're beyond, like, I don't remember what the distance, like 3 to 5 meters of the line, the shock stops so that they will want to come back. It's only a one-way shock. So they'll want to come back with their group. If it's 1 or 2, they're going to want to come back with the rest, and they don't get punished for coming back, which is good. So I don't know how that would work in a mixed use group, I guess, or a mixed, some collars, some not, or the peer pressure would be too great and everybody without the collar would be like, nah, see ya. Yeah. All right. Anybody else?
I've been curious if you find yourself really wanting to stay with sort of fixed paddock daily moves rather than just a continuous move, or if maybe the software doesn't let you just allow it to continuously move.
I don't know if that's an option in there. I'm kind of not super techie when it comes to that. So that might have been a continuous move option, but it seems like it's like daily moves. You set a paddock, move, set a paddock, move. So you're talking like the automated tumble wheel in front. That would be cool. I don't know if it can do that. Yeah, I don't know.
Have you had any breakouts where, the 3 rogue jerks go for it and the rest, they don't care if they get shocked and the whole herd like just takes off after them? So
we had a few instances of those situations at the beginning in the first few weeks. Like I said, they were following a mountain biker on the other side of the fence. They followed to the top of the property, and it's like a half mile top to bottom on that field. And I'm getting alerts on my phone. I had to shut my text alerts off because my phone would buzz those first few weeks. I didn't hear it. My wife heard it, and I'd get what's going on your phone? So I had to shut those push notifications off because it would tell you every time there was a shock or every time there was an animal out. And after the first 3 weeks, it's like, well, I don't really care because they're still inside the 3-strand high tensile, and they always found their way back to where they were supposed to be. So it's like either it's probably the dumb ones that go through and the smart ones stay. And then the dumb ones are like, how come you're not coming? And the smart ones are like, we're supposed to be here, and then they come back. So that's how it seemed to work. Behind you, Bruce.
What do you do when it's time to move them?
Move them field to field or paddock to next
Both.
day?
Do you do anything to let them know it's time to move? Are you there? Or?
So no, actually, when we had the floods in mid-July, after the group was well-trained, I physically could not get to them for 4.5 days. So had they been behind polywire, they would have been really mad or gone through the reel and made a mess and been wherever they wanted to be. But I could keep advancing their front line and let them come back to their water point. So I could just every day I'd guess on my phone. I made a mess because I didn't give them enough the first couple of days because I couldn't see them. But then I was able to keep advancing the front line so that they were staying in fresh feed when I physically couldn't get to them for like 4 days because there was no roads to that side of town. So the process of moving them from paddock to paddock, they're in paddock A, you want them to go to paddock B. You overlay paddock B with paddock A so that, and then you just there's a move option, which I could have showed you if my videos had worked, where you just assign them to a new paddock. But if that new paddock is already where they are, there's no pressure for them to cross a line where they had been getting warned at previously. And then they realize like, oh, I'm not getting a buzz. I'm not hearing anything. I'll go a little further. And then they're in the grass. Next one sees like, hey, that guy's gone and not gotten shocked. I'm going to go. And then they all go. So it takes like 15 minutes. If you don't push them and you're not there, you could just watch their little dots migrate across the line. And that worked really, really, really well. Once we figured it out, there was a very straight up steep learning curve for the humans at the very start.
So your Bud Light consumption has gone up by what %?
Can you say that again?
Your Bud Light consumption has gone up how much percentage? I mean, I'm assuming you're sitting on the couch and, you know, your next investment is going to be a drone watching them and you just.
I do want a drone to go check cows, but usually I got to spend more time doing the stuff that I shouldn't be doing, like making hay. So.
Yeah, I might still be making hay if I had that option.
Going over there.
What sort of accuracy are you seeing on these fence lines? Like for small ruminants, how tight of an area could you realistically make?
You can make a very tight area. I think that it's not sub-meter accuracy. It's not like you're walking around with a Trimble with a big antenna on the back, but you're within a meter or two, so you can crank them down. I had a couple times where I ran like 400,000 pounds to the acre, and it was with 63 6 to 7 weights, so it was like really, really, really tight. Just as an experiment, and it was only for like a few hours, but I just want to see how small I could get it.
Do you run into any trouble with lack of service?
So they're based on, you mean like cell coverage?
Yeah.
I specifically chose a field that is 400 yards from the cell tower for Hardwick because I didn't want to be out in the back 40 and then have this not work. So there is a Bluetooth option where you can update the collars while you're standing there with your phone. You got to be within 200 feet. You can update and move paddocks via that, so you don't have to have cell service. The problem with that is that they go sequentially. So we have 63 collars. So it goes to 001 update, 002 update, and it's not that fast. So it's like if they're working, and that was some of the feedback I gave them this past summer. If they could shotgun blast that out, so it goes to like all of them at the same time, whether it's you hold a external Bluetooth booster antenna or something, but it could be a chore if you don't have good cell service. When we would to do it via Bluetooth, but when we would go to do it via cell, since it's like a 5-mile drive to get over there, before we go, you guess to where the paddock should be and let them start transitioning in when you go to move the water up, which is we were doing like every other day. And then you'd say, oh, not quite enough, or just about right. And then you can gauge it from there.
Are there any ways to have multiple groups, or is it just one group on the same paddock?
I think you can have multiple groups, but not on the same, maybe on the same field. That I don't know, because I only ran one, but there is a way to break out like a group, B group, C group, and have them different color whatevers, whether it's the little round things, different color, or the paddock outlines. Like it was blue on ours. Maybe I'm sure you can change the colors so you can track which groups where.
Is there a limit to the size paddock you can make?
No, like you can make a 40-acre paddock, which is probably one of our bigger fields. We don't have a whole lot of big fields, so. And you could go down very, very tight. You can also make exclusion zones. So say you have like your fencers on a power pole here and you don't want them to chew on the cords or will be dumb. You can give them like a 3-meter circle around it and it'll keep them out, but it's inside your paddock, but it'll keep them from going in there. So you can also do it with like wet runs or sensitive areas, which I used I had a lot of sensitive areas after July. So I was like doing different exclusion zones and that worked pretty well.
Is there one or two last questions? All right, hearing none, I will say thank you so much, Ben, for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Excellent. So this sort of concludes today's program, except just to please confirm, Megan, I think the cash bar is open till 10. Yes, this evening. So please feel free to hang out. Breakfast is in this room tomorrow morning at 8. Our program starts at 9. And we hope you have an awesome evening. Thank you so much.